welcome to another edition of TrueFire Live. Today in the studio we have none other than the guitar legend himself, Walter Trout. Now, of course, you know Walter has played with everyone from Jesse Ed Davis to Canned Heat to John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. He is getting ready to put out his 30th album. Man, he's been there, done it all, and we are so excited to have him down here in the TrueFire studios doing a new course called Blues Rock on the Edge. Brother Walter, welcome.
Well, it is great to be here, and yeah, I've been there, I've done it all, and believe me, it's great to be anywhere.
Well, very cool, man. So we're excited to have you part of the TrueFire family here, and today we're going to do some playing, going to play some stuff that you did in the course, going to just jam over some tracks and have some fun. We're going to do some questions for those folks that are watching. They can shout out with some questions for you. We'll try to get those answered. And we're going to do some giveaways. We've got a giveaway going on. So everybody make sure you check the details in the links that are below this video. We've got basically 4 really awesome Mesa Boogie Gold Mine pedals to give away. We're going to give away 4 of those. We're going to give away 4 all-access passes to TrueFire. So make sure you check that out. Get signed up for that because that's a pretty cool batch of prizes we're going to give away.
Yeah, that is.
So we've had a fun time here recording your new course, right?
I have had a blast here, man. You have all treated me and my wife Marie so wonderfully, and it's just such a beautiful setup you have here. And I didn't know what to expect when I came. My good buddy Mike Zito hooked me up with you guys. Thank you, Michael. And it's just been an amazing experience. I've loved every minute.
Well, that is awesome, man. Well, we've of course loved having you, and you were definitely going to be on the charts to come back soon. We're going to do it and come back as soon as we can.
I'll take being on the charts any way I can get it, you know.
Well, that's awesome. So let's take a look at a couple things. Now, this course, you know, is blues rock on the edge because that's kind of how you play, right? That's sort of your philosophy of playing. You're an on the edge kind of player, right?
Well, you know, I've kind of lived a life on the edge in a lot of ways, and you know, I do like playing spontaneously. I do like playing and pushing myself to see if I can come up with something new, something I haven't done before. And I do like taking chances and taking risks in my playing. I don't want to play the same thing over and over. And so sometimes that makes it a little exciting because sometimes I'll try something and it doesn't always work. But I'd rather be like that than just playing it safe, you know?
Absolutely. Well, you know, your style, man, you play so many interesting things to get that on the edge feel and be more expressive, right? So one of the big things, one of the lessons that we covered that I think is really cool is like your use of volume, the volume control, and the fact that you're always using the controls of the guitar as you're playing. Besides just selecting notes, you know, you're playing with the controls to get what you're trying to say out there. So maybe give us a little demonstration of some of that stuff,
well,
and how you think about it.
Yeah, from the time I started playing, I have always been very interested and very sort of intrigued by all the different variations you can get out of an electric guitar. I don't really use pedals. I like to just plug into my Mesa Boogie amp, turn it up, and see what I can get to come out of this thing by utilizing these controls here, you know. It's very simple, really. You've got a pickup selector. You can either have that, or you can have both of these on, or both of these on, or that thing. And then you've got a volume and 2 tone controls. So it seems very simple, but you can get an amazing, you know, amount of tonal variations and things. You know, you can, you know. How about this one? That's that pickup. Now, if I did the same thing on this pickup, you have a completely different tone and a completely different feel. It's kind of darker, and to me it's a little more eerie sounding. You know, you can, and then with the volume button you can. I just love playing with the controls, and I have to say, to me, the Stratocaster is the perfect instrument for that because they're all right there. They're all within the reach of your pinky. You don't have to stop playing to control the thing. And I, over all the last 52 years of my career of playing pretty much exclusively the Strat, I just have this thing. I didn't do it on purpose. It just happened where I play pretty much 95% of the time with the pinky wrapped around the volume button. And even when I'm soloing, I might, for a couple of notes, I might turn it down a little bit. I consider soloing almost like a conversation, and sometimes you accent words. Sometimes words come out a little louder than the other word. And I want to do that in my soloing. I want it to be expressive. So I'm playing all night like that. My hand is pretty much resting on the bridge, and I'm just manipulating these controls. And a lot of times in the middle of soloing, sometimes even in the middle of a long held sustained note, I'll be changing pickups or tonal qualities, you know.
That's what makes it so expressive, you know. You're just such an expressive player. So let's play over a track. What do you want to solo over? Maybe demonstrate some of that fancy.
You know, if
switching?
I'm going to demonstrate some of that stuff, I think I'd like to play over my tune "Ordinary Madness."
Cool. You want to do the solo section?
Let's do the solo section. It's a 3-chorus section, so I can kind of stretch out, which I'm sort of known for doing. You know, if
like
3
that.
choruses is good, 8 choruses is better. As my friend Jimmy Thackeray and I used to say, the songs really exist for us to just get to the guitar solos, then we can really have a good time, you know.
That is perfect. Well, while Tommy's going to pull that up, and just want to make sure we got people chiming in here from all over. Looks like we've got folks watching from Scotland, from Vegas, from everywhere, even from Texas, it looks like. Wow. So we got people from all over the place tuning in. If you got any questions for Walter, drop them here. We'll get to what we can. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today. And more than anything, we just want to basically have some playing and let Walter just rip in there. So, Tom, if you got that queued up, let's do some jamming.
Let's do it.
And it's here inside of me. I know it's here inside of me.
I'll start with the volume button.
Wow, man.
That was better than what's on the record. Could you get that on the album, please?
That's amazing. That's amazing. You know, the ability to switch those sounds and still be just as expressive no matter what you're doing. It's amazing. It's one of the things that makes you, you know.
Also, to me, the different sounds have completely different moods to them, you know?
Right.
And when I switch the pickups and the tones like that, the difference in the sound makes me think differently about what I'm going to play. Do you know what I mean? It suddenly puts, you know, I go back to the neck pickup and I hear that kind of dark, eerie sound, and it makes me think differently. And so it's, you know, I just love playing this thing.
I can tell. I can tell. That's a good thing, man. So we've got people still chiming in from Norway and Germany and Kentucky and Turkey. Stephen Paul in the house, he says.
Hey, well, hey, Stephen. Stephen's a good buddy of mine.
There's a lot of folks here watching, and I know we got a few questions coming in, but wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, you obviously have had a long career as a solo artist, but
Yeah.
you also did a lot of work as a sideman, you know, and we were talking earlier, you know, a little bit in the course of how, you know, what made you so successful doing that. So, you know, what do you think was some of the keys? Maybe tell us a couple stories about the people that you played with and
Well, you know, I had this philosophy of being a sideman. I will say that I started off, you know, playing in bar bands, playing in cover bands, and always saying, hey, after we do that Beatles tune, you mind if I do a little bit of Muddy Waters, you know, something like that. But one day, when I was in a club band, a friend of mine said, there's these old guys on the Redondo Beach Pier on Sundays, and they're playing nothing but blues. And I asked them, if I bring my friend Walter, can he sit in? So we went up there on a Sunday. They let me get up. They said, yeah, oh yeah, okay, you can get up and play a tune. I played a tune. They play another tune. I played another tune. They said, stay up here. Turned out they took a break and they said, you want to join the band? Well, it happened to be John Lee Hooker's backup band with the late, great Hammond B3 player Deacon Jones, one of the greatest of all time. He was the band leader. And I got in the band and suddenly I was playing with John Lee Hooker. And then with these guys, I went on to back up Big Mama Thornton and Percy Mayfield and Lowell Folsom and Pee Wee Creighton and Eddie Cleanhead Vincent and Bo Diddley and a few other people. And as I was going from artist to artist, I kind of developed this theory that to be a successful sideman, you have to kind of take yourself out of the equation and you have to try to fit in and try to understand the musical vision and the musical presentation of the person you're backing up. You're there to make that person sound good, and that's your job. And I think that made me successful as a sideman. You know, I was kind of in demand in LA. When these people would come to LA, we'd back them up and they'd all say, hey, we want that guy Walter, you know. And for example, I played with an incredible, legendary lady named Big Mama Thornton, who I loved dearly. But when we're going to play the first gig. I'm in my early 20s. We haven't rehearsed. And I said, okay, Mama, we're going to go on. Okay, Mama, what are we going to play? You know, and I was nervous. And she looked at me and she said, all you got to do is play like B.B. King. And she said to me, I don't want to hear no psychedelic. So then I'm up on stage and I'm playing. She says, ladies and gentlemen, right now this boy is going to try to play like B.B. King. And I went, and she gave me a big smile. And because I was trying to fit into what she wanted, you can't get up with Big Mama and go into a Hendrix feedback solo, you know? So I think I was pretty good at, you know, when I would get hired by somebody like that, I would listen to their records and I would try to get into their approach and their frame of mind, and I would try to fit in with what they had, which, you know, it got me into a little trouble with my first gig with John Mayall. you know.
Tell us about that.
Well, after I was playing with John Lee Hooker, I got hired by the legendary band Canned Heat. And I was with them for 4 years, and I had an incredible time. I had been at Woodstock. I had seen Canned Heat play there, and they had blown my mind, and I was a mega fan. And I got hired by them. And while I was with them, we opened for John Mayall, and I ended up being asked to join John Mayall's band, which to me is the epitome of, if you're a blues guitarist and you're a sideman, being in John Mayall's band is the mountaintop. I have been to the mountaintop. Where are you going to go from there? Really, he features you every night. He nurtures you. He presents you to the people. You can't really get in a bigger gig. You could say, well, you could play with B.B. King, but you will be standing in the background playing chords. This was as high up in the sideman world as I could go. And the first night that I played with him, we did a lot of the tunes off the Eric Clapton and the Blues Breakers album, which I had, as a kid, I had sat down and I had learned every one of those solos, note for note, nuance to nuance. And so I got up with John that first night, and we're doing All Your Love, and we're doing Hideaway, and all these tunes off that album. And I was just, you know, ripping off these Eric Clapton solos, note for note. And John was kind of looking at me, and I came off stage thinking, man, I nailed that. And he came to my room that night and knocked on the door, and he said, Walter, I hired you because I love the way you play. And if I wanted Eric Clapton, I'll call Eric Clapton. You know, so he goes, I want you to do what you do, the way you do it, and I want you to bring your ideas and your approach to this music, to these tunes. And that night, Mr. Mayall freed me, because I felt it was like a weight upon my shoulders having to stand in the place of Eric Clapton and Mick Taylor and Peter Green and stand there and be in that line of succession, right? And he freed me of that, what I thought was a weight on my shoulders. So I started going off every night. I was just going off, man. I was expanding and growing as a guitarist and having a ball, but I guess I took it a little overboard, because after about 2 months of doing gigs with Mr. Mayall, he came to me and said, Walter, I love what you're doing, but he goes, how can I put this? And he goes, every once in a while, just take your hand off the neck. You know, he wanted me to leave a space. So, but I think that was a very long and verbose answer to your sideman question. But
it's a great
I
answer.
think, you know, being a sideman, you've got to realize that your place is to make that artist sound good. It's not about you, it's about them.
That is awesome. That is a great story, and it's so true. You want to do what's called for, right? Sometimes less, sometimes a little more.
Yeah.
Sometimes it varies. So you just got to read that.
You want to do what is going to make that person's music sound good. Those people that have bought those tickets are there to see John Lee Hooker. They're there to see John Mayall, you know?
Absolutely.
They're not there to see the side guys.
Sure.
They're there to see that artist, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know, whatever you do, the cool thing about your playing, to me, has always been, no matter where you're playing, what situation you're playing in, what kind of stuff you're playing, you have a unique sound. You sound like you. And I think a lot of that comes from, you know, your approach and the way you look at the fretboard. And that's one of the other lessons we talked about in this course, which I thought was really cool, was how you see the fretboard, right? How you look down. And you don't necessarily think in terms of scales and doing this and that. You're looking at these inversions and how you can do what you've done in one place and move it to other places depending upon the chords. Is that pretty accurate?
That's it. And also, I think in these inversions of the chords, and I realize as I'm playing up and down the neck that one inversion leads to another. And this actually started off, you know, I'm self-taught. So the first thing when I was trying to learn how to play some licks on the guitar, I remember showing my friends when I was in like 6th grade or something. I said, look at this. I went, and they all started laughing. And I go, don't you think that's cool? And I'm like, what's that? They didn't realize I was starting now. I'm starting to figure this thing out, right? And what I came to understand was each chord, you know, has basic 3 places on the neck you can play it. Let's say you're in A, okay? Here's this, first position. Here's this, and then here's this, and then here's this. And out of each of those inversion positions on the neck, there are licks, there are things that are possible. I have never thought in terms of scales. I've had guys ask me, well, do you only play pentatonic? And I go, I don't even know what a pentatonic is, you know. In my youth, I drank a lot of gin and tonic, I went catatonic, and then I got sober, right? But I think about, you know, when I was a kid, I would be down here in the first position on the A, and I'd go. And then I came up with this theory that this finger replaces the nut. So basically, this is the first position, and these licks are in this position. If I move up, the finger replaces the nut, but the licks are fingered the same, okay? That's the same licks basically, but they're at different spots on the neck. And each inversion leads me to another place. For example, if I went... Now when I'm there, I'm thinking I'm in this inversion. And what's possible out of that inversion? I'm still there. Now it leads me up to... Now when I'm there, I'm in this inversion, which is actually an octave higher than this. So now Now when I'm there, I'm up here, which is an octave higher than this. So it's weird. I see the neck, after I figured all this out as a kid and really worked on it, I see the neck in my mind. It's almost like a road map. It's like Google Maps or something. I hear the lick in my head, and when I go to play it, I see it visually. How do I get there? How do I get to this thing I'm hearing? And I go from one spot on the neck to the other, but it's all based on the chord inversions.
That is awesome. And that keeps it melodic, and it keeps you playing over the chord changes as you're playing through a progression. Obviously, that's the whole point, right? You're following the chord changes instead of just blowing notes over whatever and not listening to the rhythm.
That's exactly right. Now, let's say you're playing a blues out of A. When it goes to the 4 chord, which is D, now when that chord comes up, I'm thinking out of D. Thinking out of D. Then it goes to the 5, the E. I'm thinking out of the E.
Yeah.
So there have been certain times in my life that musicians and teachers have said things to me that really had an impact on me. One of them was my music teacher in high school, and he said, he was talking about jazz, but he said to the class, for any kind of improvisation, you have to have a knowledge of chords and what notes are in the chords, because he goes, the great jazz improvisers are playing in these chords and around the chord changes, and that really stuck with me. And I've tried to sort of relate that to just your basic 3-chord rock and roll, rock and blues stuff, you know.
Yeah, awesome. That is awesome. So let's get ready to play another track. Let's do another jam. What do you want to play over?
I can't even remember what we got. We've got
what do we got in there, Tommy? Let's pull something up.
We've got Gonna Hurt Like Hell. We got All Out of Tears.
Let's do All Out of Tears.
All right.
You want to do, that's got a pretty good solo on it too.
All right, we'll do
And that is a minor blues. And even in the minor keys, I'm still thinking inversions. It's in C minor, I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking out of those positions, and when I get to one, it's like, okay, what can I do out of that position on the neck?
Sure. Well, perfect. Yeah, we'll demonstrate that. And for everybody watching on YouTube, make sure you check out the details. But if you want to be the first one to jump in and pre-order Walter's brand new course that we're going to have here at TrueFire, Blues Rock on the Edge, you can do it right now today. If you enter the code REDSUN25, you get 25% off. So if you want to get that right now, it has amazing Walter playing, Walter stories, Walter teaching. It's a pretty awesome course, I can say that. Also, make sure you are signed up for the giveaway, because we've got some pedals I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. We're going to talk about gear in a little bit. We'll talk about your guitar, amps. We'll talk a little bit about that. But if you're ready in there, Tommy, let's roll this track and do a little playing.
The solo.
Your solo section, here we go.
You know that I'm all out of tears. Yes, I am. Try to move on to tomorrow.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That is awesome.
Now, I was following in my brain, like when it went to the 4 chord, which was an F minor, I like playing that minor third over the 4 chord. I think it gives it a real emotional little jolt.
Absolutely,
note,
absolutely. Just makes it melodic. It's following it's part of the pattern. It's part of the music instead of just a solo off by itself. Yeah.
Sure.
Awesome. That is awesome, man. So we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to talk about this. We're going to talk a little bit about gear. Got some folks asking about gear, your guitars, amp setup. We're doing a giveaway, so make sure you are signed up. We're giving away 4 of these brand new Mesa Boogie Goldmine Overdrive pedals. So if you haven't got registered for the giveaway, please do that. We're going to give away 4 of these pedals. We're also going to give away 4 all access subscriptions. So check that out. Make sure you get signed up for that. Now, Walter, you have been, let's start with your amp. You have been a Mesa Boogie guy for how long?
Probably 36 or 37 years since I was with Mr. Mayall.
Wow. Wow. Why did you choose Mesa Boogie?
Well, I'll go back and tell you a story that when I was with the Blues Breakers, we did not carry our own back line. every night that we went to a club or a festival, they would provide us backline. And we would show up to sound check, and there would be some amps that we had to play through. And I was in the band, and there was also the incredible dear friend of mine, Mr. Coco Montoya, was also a guitar player in the band, and we used to trade off leads. But we would show up, and there'd be 2 guitar amps. Okay, one's a beautiful Fender, and the other one's like, you know, a little pig nose or something. Who gets what? So we came up with this plan that we would alternate nights of who got the first pick of the amplifiers. And we were in Roanoke, Virginia, and Coco got a beautiful amplifier. It was his turn to have his pick. And I had this horrific amp at sound check that I just, it was horrible. And I was really like despondent that I was going to have to get up in front of people and play through this thing. And the sound man said, Walter, I have an amp by a company called Mesa Boogie. Do you want to try it? And I'm like, well, I don't know who it is, but yeah, bring it. Well, we showed up for the gig that night, and this dude had a full stack. He had 2 4x12 cabinets with this Mark I head on the top. The whole rig was about 7 feet tall. And I go, I don't know how to set this thing, dude. So he goes, what do you want? I said, I want sustain and I want drive. So he set it, and I got up and started playing, and I was just blown away. I think I actually blew the band off the stage that night. They were looking at me like, whoa, because I had this thing cranking, right? And I was so impressed with it. The next day I called the company and I said, hi, I tried one of your amps last night. I play with John Mayall. And they're like, well, hey, you're with us now. And I've been with them for all these years, and they have treated me so wonderfully. And that's it. And I've been with them. In the start, it was a Mark I. Then they came out with a Mark II. I had that. Then I did the Mark III and the Mark IV and the Mark V. And, you know, they've just been so great to me. And I will tell you a story that I had a health problem some years back, really bad health problem. And I had to relearn how to play the guitar from scratch. They sent me 2 amplifiers. And they said, here, Walter, we love you. Here's some amps for you to play through, and we hope this will inspire you. That's
awesome.
how great they have been to me. And their amps, to me, are just the most versatile, incredible amps. I don't use any pedals. I plug into the amp. Right now I'm playing through a Mesa Boogie Mark IV, an old vintage Mark IV here, through a 212 speaker Boogie cabinet. I'm playing on channel 3, which is the lead channel. I've got the gain and the drive up around 8. I'm not using the EQ. I don't use that. I'm just using the tone knobs. I've got the treble up around 7.5, and the bass and the mids around 4. I've only got the master volume on 2.5, and I've got the channel on about 4. So these things will scream. But what I love also about Mesa Boogie is you can get it set for all this big, fat, beefy tone and sustain and drive and screaming. But then you can turn the channel down and you can get the same tone, almost whisper quiet. I can play my Boogie in my house at 3 a.m. and not wake anybody up because I have it down really, really quiet. But it's still just ripping, you know. And I'm just a devotee of their amps. They, to me, I mean, there's a lot of boutique amps out there, and people have their preferences, and there's the legendary this and the legendary that. And I've played through a lot of different ones, and I always come back to my Mesa Boogie, and as soon as I plug in and start playing, I feel at home.
Sure.
This guitar, the Boogie amp, I know every single nuance of every note, what's going to come out, where I'm going to get a harmonic, where, you know, it's just a joy to play through.
Well, that is amazing, and it does sound amazing. I can vouch for the fact that basically you've got your guitar plugged directly into the head, and that's going directly into a speaker cab. There's no pedals, there's no nothing. Sometimes we
No.
get caught up, everybody gets caught up in this new modeling, this and that, and all these millions of pedals. And, you know, you just plug in and play the guitar, which is,
Yeah.
you know, something that I've always found, you know, really, you know, admirable about yourself, is because you just play, you know, you just plug in and play, which is something that's pretty amazing. Speaking of plugging in, we got questions about that guitar. So tell us about this guitar. What year is this Strat?
Well,
what's special about this Strat? I know it's,
well,
you
the-
retired a Strat.
Yeah, I have an old, beautiful, very famous beat-up Stratocaster that's been on the cover of all my records, and I played it on tour for like 40 years. It was blazing white when I bought it in 1974 off the shelf. And over the years, half the finish is off of it, and it's deep, dark yellow and even brown at some places. But I don't take that on the road anymore. It was too nerve-wracking to think if something happened to it or somebody stole it. I feel that guitar has got my spirit in it. It was an entity. And back when I was using it every night, it really was like an entity. If I used a different guitar on a tune and I put that one back on, it was mad at me. And it wouldn't play well. It would play hard. It would hurt my fingers, and I had to sort of caress it and talk to it and say, hey, you know, I love you, I'm back. And then all of a sudden it would play beautifully again. You know, it was a creature, man. It was alive, but it's home. So when I was going to retire it, to start off with this guitar, the first thing that happened was my friend Seymour Duncan, the pickup master, called me and said, I hear you're going to retire your old Strat. I said, yeah, I have to. And he said, I'll make you some pickups that'll match it, be just like it. And he sent me these pickups. Now, you know, this body, I needed something very light, because after 45 years or something of playing almost every night, my shoulders were destroyed, you know, and I was getting therapy and it was hurting. So actually, a fella named Scott Lentz in San Diego, who's a beautiful guitar builder, he made me this body and said it weighs absolutely nothing. So we put the Seymours in here, and I had a few Strats sitting around my house, other ones that I had sort of collected. I found this neck on one that I loved, and we put the neck on here. So even though to me this is a Fender Strat, it is a put together guitar. And these pickups that Seymour made me, one of my kids and I, we went out in the garage and set up my stage rig, and we A-B'd the guitars. I played the old Strat, and then I played this, and I'm like, Seymour nailed it, man. He did it, you know, so thank you, Seymour.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now you've got one that sort of replaces that. Now, when you get out on the road, you're also playing some Delaney guitars, right? You've got Delaney. Michael Delaney makes beautiful instruments. So tell us about
Michael Delaney makes some of the most beautiful guitars on the planet.
Absolutely.
He makes guitars for some of the greatest guitar players out there. He is one of the most wonderful, generous guitar builders out there, and his guitars are works of art. And he has built me, and he has for sale, it's a Walter Trout signature model. And what Michael did was he took my old Strat, and he took all these measurements on the neck, and he has built a neck that is pretty almost exactly close to the neck on that old guitar, because I have to say that old guitar has the most greatest neck of any guitar, but it's certainly worn in, you know.
Sure.
And he has put his own pickups in it, and he has done some of the mods that I've done, like connecting, taking the tone off of the neck pickup and connecting it to here. And so it's a Walter Trout signature model. It's a beautiful guitar. And you know, I flew down here to Florida. I had to bring one guitar with me from Huntington, and I brought this one. But I do use the Delaney when I'm on tour. And also I have a Delaney signature model in Europe that I use. And over in Europe, that signature model is my main stage guitar. That's what I use all night long over there.
Awesome.
So thank you, Michael Delaney and Val.
Absolutely. Michael makes some amazing guitars. So that's very cool. So what I love about it is it's like, you know, it's all about getting a guitar that feels right to you. You know, you
Yeah.
want a guitar that feels right. You don't really care what that guitar is. It's got to have the right feeling. It's got to speak to you, because that's how you play. You know, you have that vibe about it's got to be the feel. It's part of you.
Well, that to me is the main thing with a guitar, is how it feels. And some years ago, I did an interview with a magazine, and they were trying to get me to, you know, go off and praise old vintage guitars. And I'm like, yeah, they're beautiful, but I don't think I'm ready to spend $40,000 on an old Strat, because it is my belief, I said this, you can go into a Guitar Center or a guitar store, you can find, say, a Mexican Strat, and the first thing you have to find is how does it feel? Does it feel right when you play it? Does it feel like it likes you and you like it and you can groove with it? So you get that guitar, you get a couple of Seymour Duncan vintage antiquity pickups, you put them in that Mexican Strat, and you have one that's going to play as good and sound as good as a 54 Strat. And I said this in the magazine, and I got death threats, you know, but it's just my feeling. It's about how it feels. That is the main thing, you know.
Absolutely. You're such a rebel. You
know, that's why I like 70s Strats, because they told me, you know, conventional wisdom, you're not supposed to like 70s Strats. Well, I'm going to get a 70s Strat and watch what I do with it, you know? Don't tell me what I'm supposed to like and not like. I can't stand that stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm not somebody who likes to follow hype.
I know, and that's why your music is you know, speaks to, I think, so many people, and so many people love what you do, because you're the real deal. Let's talk just a little bit more about the course. Let's do one more. You know, we've got some people asking about the course. Once again, if you want to snag it today, it's 25% off, Red Sun 25. You can find out all the details about that and the giveaways right in the link, the description below the YouTube video. So make sure you're on YouTube if you're doing the YouTube chat. The YouTube video has that stuff. So you can check that out. You talk about, you know, when we talk about soloing, you talk a lot about building a solo, you know, and saying something with a solo. So maybe touch a little bit. There was a great segment in the course where you really went in depth on that. We don't need to go that in depth, but just give us a little bit of your philosophy on kind of building and putting together a solo.
I can tell you that I'm going to go back in time now. When I moved to California from a little town in New Jersey in 1974, and I was going around trying to sit in with people and get a gig, the first person I played with was the late, great blues man, Mr. James Harmon. And when it was time to play a solo with James, he would say, "Tell your story." And that, I was like, I never thought about that before. And I thought, yeah, the solo should tell a story, you know, and a great story, a great piece of literature, you know, you have kind of the foreword and the setup, what the story's going to be. And then in the middle, maybe there's some tension, and it should build up until there's sort of the grand climax at the end of it. You know, a lot of times I will liken it to a Southern Baptist preacher. I will say, to me, the greatest solo I've ever heard is the "I Have a Dream" speech by Martin Luther King. If you listen to it from beginning to end, it just builds and builds and builds, and he gets to the end, and at the end you're like, he has said it all, and like, wow. And that's just my theory of building a solo. Now, in order to do that, really, you have to have a bit of a solo that you can stretch on. If it's like a pop tune and you got an 8-bar solo, in that case, you pretty much just got to go for it.
Sure.
You know, but I like stretching. You know, there are guys, the guys in my band, they have this thing, they'll go, "Geez, Walter keeps going and going, and just when you think he can't go anymore, he does 3 more, you know." And, but it's just me, you know, I love playing.
That's good. Love playing. That's a great segue into let's play something. Should we play a solo?
Well, I think if we were to do the solo on my song "Haunted by the Night,"
Yep.
I think it's just a one chorus solo, but it kind of stretches. It's got a long one chord.
Yep.
And the song is a bit eerie because it's off of my album Battle Scars, which is a concept album about my illness and my 8 months in the hospital. And this song particularly is about laying in that bed in the hospital overnight when time would just sort of stop and the lights would go off in that hospital, and you just be laying there, and they're telling you you have to sleep, and you got all these tubes in you, and lights are blinking and beeping, so you can't sleep, and you lay there, and every minute seems like 10 hours. And that's what the song, behind the lyrics of the song. So it's a bit of an eerie tune, but it does have a chance for me to sort of build up a solo.
Awesome. Well, cue that up, and Walter, tell your story.
Here we go, guys.
Yes, I will. 'Cause I'm haunted by the night. I'm haunted by the night.
Okay, here we go.
I'm haunted. Push the button.
So I tried to sort of start down here, not sort of play a whole lot of flurries of notes. I kind of moved up the neck, and then when it was building towards what was going to be the climax, I kind of went for it with the flurries of notes until, I got all the way up here, and I couldn't go any further. I'm out of frets,
That's awesome. That was beautiful, man. That was beautiful. Yeah, I love it. The way you build a solo like that is just, it's you. It's all
me.
you, which is
I
what I
can't
love
help
about.
myself.
Nope, I love it. And if we played that song again right now, you would play a completely different solo, similar ideas, but you'd be picking different notes because you're improvising.
Well,
you're playing what you do.
I have to play spontaneously with what I feel, and
That's
I
awesome.
cannot play the same thing twice in a row.
Right.
I can tell you a little story about that. When I first moved to California, I got into a country band, and I was the lead player, and we were doing a song by Merle Haggard called Mama Tried, and the intro was... That's the intro. I had to do that every night. And I'd be getting ready. Oh, I got to play it the same. Uh-oh. And that's what would happen. I'd get so tense, it's got to be played like this. And I finally just said to the guy, look, I can't play it. I'm going to mess it up. So how about if I go... Or how about I go... It's got to be different every time or I'm going to screw it up. And they're looking at me, you can't play that simple little thing. And I'd go, I anticipate it. Here it comes. And then it just comes out like, so I have to sort of just play what I'm feeling at the moment. Now, I do have a thing when I'm going to play a solo. I do at times think about, there's two really important aspects of a solo, which is where you're going to start and where you're going to end, So sometimes, like on that last one with Haunted by the Night, I started down here. Now the next time I might switch pickups and come up. You know, I might start at a different point on the neck. So I think where you start is very important, and also how you get out of it.
Right. Well, that's definitely good tips. This course is, you know, full of those insights. Anybody watching this, enjoying this live stream, appreciate you guys all tuning into our TrueFire lives here. This course is something that, you know, just amazing playing by Walter. All of these insights, some great stories, some stories that are very funny, some good stories that we've got, but some really good insights into how you can develop your own playing, how you can basically take these ideas and make them your own, because that's really the gist of this blues rock on the edge. If you have not signed up, make sure you read the details under the YouTube video. You'll see how to get signed up for the giveaways. Giving away 4 of the Mesa Boogie pedals and giving away 4 all access subscriptions. So make sure you do that. If you want to get this course right now, you can save 25% on it today by entering Red Sun 25. So Walter, I want to talk. I know, man, I could sit here and talk to you all day. We've already been doing that for the last couple of days, but
yeah.
I could. That's we should have been recording all that, but
we've been having fun, man.
We have been, man. So I want to say though, I want to talk a little bit about, or I want to have you talk a little bit about your health issues, and you know, in 2013 was it, somewhere around there, that you had you had some serious illness. You had a liver transplant. Yes. And you basically had to completely relearn how to play guitar. All of your guitar knowledge that you'd been, every story you told about all those early days and the great playing you did was gone. So tell us just a little bit about that, if you can share some of that.
I started having symptoms almost 10 years before I got very, very ill. I started having equilibrium problems, and I got sort of chronic fatigue. I was hard to even just move and get out of bed, and I would almost have to force myself to get on stage. And I was also starting to get, my hands would cramp up from playing. I would get these Charlie horses and I couldn't play. It was frightening. And I was chalking it up to, I lived a crazy life in my youth. I partied quite a bit, and I'm paying the price. And as I got worse and worse, I went in, we got checked. My wife took me in. We found out that I had a disease called hepatitis C, and it had created really severe cirrhosis of the liver. Anyway, I ended up being hospitalized. I was in that hospital for 8 months, flat on my back. I developed brain damage to where I was having trouble speaking. I couldn't talk. I got to where I didn't recognize my wife or my kids. I was very, very close to death a few times. I lost 120 pounds in about 3 months. I lost more than half my body weight. I didn't have a bite of solid food for 6 months. I had a hose in my nose, and it was pretty brutal. We didn't really expect me to get through, but on May the 26th, 2014, they found a liver match for me, and they gave me a liver transplant. Saved my life. But then the real work started. I had to get speech therapy and get my speaking back together, and I still sometimes have problems with vocabulary, or I'll be in the middle of a sentence and all of a sudden I go blank in my brain, you know. But the real drag for me, I got home, I sat down with the guitar, and I had absolutely no idea what to do with it. My wife would come to me and she'd show me a video of me playing, and I would say to her, I don't know who that guy is, and I can't do that. And I can barely even remember doing that. And I couldn't play. And it was her who said, well, you're going to have to start over again. You better just start again. So I sat down and taught myself from scratch the same way I did when I was 10 years old. How do you play a G chord? How do you play a C chord? How do you play a bar chord? Okay, how do you bend a string? All this stuff. I worked on it pretty much every day for maybe 6, 7 hours for a year. And slowly but surely it came back. And after it came back, my wife said to me, Walter, you know, I love you. You've been through a lot of trauma. I'm glad you've come out of it. We are overjoyed you're here. But I have to tell you, with all this trauma that you've been through, you are a pain in the ass to be around. So she goes, you either need to go talk to a shrink, or why don't you try writing a song? She gave me that idea. And in 2 days, I wrote 18 songs about what happened to me. They just came out, you know. It was like after eating a bad burrito at Taco Bell. It just came out, man. And it ended up becoming an album called Battle Scars, and that album basically tells the full story of what I went through. It starts with a song called Almost Gone, I'm Almost Gone, and it ends with a song called I'm Gonna Live Again. And it tells the story in very graphic, morbid, dark detail. But I have to say, when I wrote the songs, I did it for me. It was therapy. I didn't have ideas that I'm going to record these things. So the lyrics are pretty graphic. Now, it ended up winning the Blues Music Award for Blues Rock Album of the Year. And the song Gonna Live Again ended up winning Song of the Year. And that was, I thought they were voting for me. They were just glad I was still alive and kicking. And I was very thankful to the fans for doing that, you know. But I did have to start from scratch on the guitar.
That's amazing.
But I regained a lot of my love for it, because I have to say that after doing gig after gig for many, many years, you know, from the time I joined Canned Heat, which was in the beginning of 1980, I did 200 cities a year, every year, Canned Heat to John Mayall. I was constantly on tour, and I did all these gigs, and when I couldn't play anymore and I was sitting there, I realized I used to take this for granted. This was something I knew how to do. It came to me easy. Here comes another gig, and I realized there were some nights that I'd be on the stage living my childhood dream, but I'd be like, hey, you know, I wonder what's on HBO tonight, you know, could we get out of here? After I lost that ability and regained it, that doesn't happen to me anymore. The love of this came back in tenfold, almost, for what it ever had been, really.
Well, that's an amazing, inspiring story. One of our other, actually TrueFire artist, Pat Martino, had a similar thing where he had to relearn how to play.
Yes.
Sounds crazy. Most of us are just trying to learn how to play once in a lifetime, and you guys did it twice, basically.
Now, I'm from Philadelphia, as Pat is, and I'm a big fan of Pat. And in my younger days, I used to see him in clubs in Philadelphia. And when that happened to him, I was heartbroken.
Sure.
And then when he came back, it was so inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is. And that's hopefully, your story, I'm sure, inspires, tons of people. You never know who you touch and who you inspire, and I think I shared this with you before. I was recording one of my albums in the studio, and every day in the studio when we'd go into play, we'd put on one of your CDs. We'd put on Living Every Day and listen to that, because it was just the vibe, the spirit of what you were doing and playing was what we were trying to do. It was what we were trying to do. We were trying to capture whatever you had there, and what you have there is just what you're sharing here with us, and what you shared in this course. What you have, is a real honesty about your playing, just a real sincerity. You love to play, and you put your heart and soul into it.
I'll tell you, the honesty thing is important to me, because if you're going to be in sort of the blues genre, there is a thing about being authentic. Mm-hmm. And I'm a white kid from suburban New Jersey. I didn't grow up in Clarksdale, and to me, the only way that I can attempt to be authentic when I play that music is to play from my heart and soul in the depth of my experience and my feeling. And then I'm authentic to myself. I'm not putting on an act. I'm not trying to imitate some other guitar player. I'm doing my best to play the best I can with whatever talent God has given me. And that's the way I can be authentic, is by being true to myself and being honest in the way I play. And if in the middle of a slow blues, if I feel like playing 10,000 notes, I'm going to do it because I feel it, you know. And Deacon Jones, who was the band leader with John Lee Hooker, who actually ended up playing on 5 or 6 of my records, he said one time, because I get accused from some of the blues purist critics, oh, you play too many notes. Deacon said, Walter, there's no such thing as too many notes. There's no such thing as not enough notes. All that matters is this. Is this musician communicating with his instrument? And you can communicate with a lot of notes. You can communicate with a few notes. Charlie Parker could play 10 zillion notes, but he's communicating, right?
Absolutely.
And so that, to me, the honesty thing has been very, very important. I'm not trying to imitate anybody. I'm not trying to fool anybody. There's no persona here. I'm not, you know, being Ziggy Stardust. You know, I want to be Walter Trout. Here I am. What you see is what you get, you know.
Well, you do a great job of being Walter Trout, so keep doing that.
Well, somebody has. It's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it, you know.
Just as well do it.
Yeah.
Oh man, well it has been a blast, and like I say, we could talk forever, but I know we got to wrap things up here. But I think we should wrap things up with some more playing, because that's what we like to do.
That's perfect segue, because this song of mine, It's Gonna Hurt Like Hell. It's an up-tempo blues shuffle that I did with Kenny Wayne Shepherd. But I do need to let you know that the late, great Deacon Jones, who I have talked about, is on this song, and I do believe he's playing Hammond B3, and I do believe this was his final recording before he passed away.
Oh, that's amazing.
So you'll hear the Hammond B3 in there, and that is my dear friend, my mentor, the beloved guy, Mr. Deacon Jones on Hammond.
Awesome. Well, let's take it out with that. Thank you, everyone, for watching. You know, look for more of Walter and TrueFire. Of course, Walter's 30th album is coming out. He's got 30 albums. Go to Walter's website, check out all of his stuff. I mean, there's so many nuggets of amazing playing, amazing musical history there with everything that Walter has done. So go to waltertrout.com and check out all of his stuff. And we'll certainly have links to all of his things here at TrueFire as well. And Walter, it's been a pleasure, my friend. And,
I just have to say, I want to thank everybody here at TrueFire, because this has been an amazing couple of days here. I've just had a great time. You've treated Marie and I so warmly and wonderfully, and I just can't say enough good things about your organization and what you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We get to do what we do. We've considered it a privilege to get to do what we do with cats like yourself. So thank you so much, man. Let's play it. Let's play this thing out.